Yes, it is Mental Health Mondays. Dr. Tina Scott, thank you so much for joining me once again. How have you been?
Good. What about you?
I've been good. You know, we're slowly starting to open up. Things are slowly starting to, I can't even say get back to normal because it's like a new normal that we're living in. But at least you can like walk outside without feeling guilty right now.
Yeah. Yes. To go outside and you actually see people, but people are actually keeping their distance.
hmm
But it just feels nice to see people, even if you don't know them, because they feel like everyone's coming back alive again, So
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. And this weather is nice too. So I'm loving that.
Finally, some good weather. We can take some fresh breaths. But I know that it's slowly starting to open, but some people are still practicing social distancing, isolation,
Mhm.
and it may be a little hard to kind of socialize once again with this threat of the coronavirus out there. You're scared.
Right.
People are living in fear. And
Mhm.
when you are social distancing and practicing isolation, you can get into a perpetual state of depression.
Yeah, yeah. Because listen, it's something that you can't see and you can't put your finger on, right? So now, of course, our fear is going to be heightened. It'd be different if the corona had like a fingerprint, but it's just
hmm
something moving about. And to your point, even though things are opening it up, um, it's still a big thing of uncertainty. And are we doing this too fast? And you're right. Many people are anxious and a lot are depressed because many have lost people that they're close to. And now they couldn't even go through the grieving process. They just got to jump back in this thing called life and just make things back or as close to normal as they could. So it's a lot of emotions going on right now.
It's a lot of emotions, and then I find myself having to filter my news intake because that even makes me more depressed, right? So they're putting this fear into you. There's this many cases of deaths happening. It's like it feels like maybe a second wave is going to happen, and then you're watching the news, then you're watching people getting gunned down in the street still. The young man Ahmad, let me make sure that I get his name right.
Mhm.
But Ahmaud Aubrey, who was gunned down in the street, he was jogging, and it just makes you feel upset and depressed, and even more like you don't even want to go outside, especially, you know,
Yeah.
Black people in America. It's a
It's,
crazy
it's, it's,
feeling.
it definitely is. And here it is. We're in a pandemic, and then one would think some things would just subside itself, and then to turn on the news and see that this is happening, it raises a whole lot of emotions. It raises sadness, frustration, anger, depression, fear, because it's like, oh my God, when we see something like this happening to someone that looks just like us, it raises a lot of emotions, and to the point that many want to stay in. And I think and seeing people that come into my office, well, not literally come in, but on the Zoom, come into my office and share like, yo, this is really triggering something in me. And I'm mad, and why is this right? And why isn't anybody doing anything? And the topic of microaggressions, right? I think when we talk about them being so small, right, and subtle, and I think since people do it in a small and settled way, they think that it's okay. And just to have a Black male jogging down the street, you have two white men assuming that it's okay
Yep.
to action like that. It really gives you a lot to think about. And I also think it gives you a lot to want to put in action, like a call to action. It's time that we do something in the most peaceful and like legal way, because it's just heartbreaking.
It really just kind of makes me feel angry. Like maybe, I'm not saying this is the right way, but it may feel like people want to fight fire with fire because it's happening again and again and again and again. It's going to continue to happen until you're like, you really feel like worthless, like our lives really don't mean anything. It really does trigger something. How do you think that we can kind of cope with those feelings?
Well, I think first be real and authentic with what you're feeling. Like, what am I feeling when I see this? When I saw the news and I saw what happened, and it's so funny because I don't really watch the news, right? So when I scroll through social media, I kept seeing the posting of this individual, and I was like, what happened? Because I'm seeing it on every thread, and seeing it on every thread prompted me to look at it. And when I first saw it, it like took the wind out of me. That I kept saying it's unfair, right? And here we are trying to create a space in this pandemic and go out and get some fresh air, only for him not to return back at his home.
Mm.
And the actions of these two individuals didn't just impact that young man, it impacted his mother, his family, everybody, the whole dynamics. People such as us looking at it, it's like the feeling of hope. It's real slim right now. So that's why we got to really tap into where we get our power from, because if we look around us, it's easy to lose the hope that we probably once had.
That really speaks a lot right there. We gotta search deep and dig deep for that hope. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit, because class of 2020, graduating, it's a bittersweet moment, because I know my little cousin, she's going off to college, but she doesn't get a chance to, walk across the stage and party with her friends and get that ceremony that, we were used to on a yearly basis with either people in our family, our kids, our loved ones, and having that celebratory moment. And now these kids are just kind of going off into the world in a pandemic, and there's a hiring freeze because almost 4 million people lost their jobs. Can we just kind of talk about that state of what's happening even for the next generation?
Yeah, it's so funny because now, and we were scheduled to have a thing called What's Next, right? Where we actually talk to these college students, and we had to keep pushing it off. And now it's going to be the second Friday in August. And the reason why we're going to have the What's Next is because right now, what's next? We graduated. We didn't even get to walk across the aisle. After that, what's next? Because now all the jobs look different. Because before it was fields that's trying to hire everybody, and now a lot of companies are trying to figure out how can they survive. How can they survive this pandemic? Because now their revenue may not be flowing in like it used to. The people that they once wanted to hire, they have to freeze it. And now it's like the people that graduated from college got all these student loans, all this debt.
Yep.
And it's like, did I do all this for nothing? So that's why during this time, it's good to have a good support system and even talk to people just like ourselves that just went through this. If you just graduated, like, what is everybody else doing? What are we trying to do? What's our next move? And here it is. I believe things will go back to close to normal as possible. But in the meantime, it's like us going through the trenches, right? We're going through the valleys before we can actually climb up that mountain. So I definitely ask people to just evaluate where they are right now and still allow themselves to pat themselves on the back and encourage themselves for the major milestone that they just came through. Because to graduate, that's not easy, and everybody can't graduate. And I think sometimes when we get to the end of our goal, there's an assumption that anybody could have did this, and that's not the case. It took a lot of hard work, determination, resilience, being up all night. I know any program, you got to write something. I don't know how long it is, but you got to do something. It means you got to sacrifice your time, and just being mindful, all that you put into something and all that you put in to get your degree. And even though you didn't walk across the stage, there's still some value at the end. And now it's time to step into that next chapter of your life. Even though it seemed blurry, there is another chapter. We just got to get through this season so everything can flourish like it's supposed to.
And just to piggyback on that, I think the kids that are graduating, connect with those brilliant minds that you had a connection with, so that you can probably look more into entrepreneurship. I think that's where a lot of things are going now, because you can't really depend on a job market in the climate that we're in right now. You can't wait for somebody to hire you. You got to produce and create your own. So whatever that passion is, whatever those ideas were that you were building on with your classmates in school, or your people that are surrounding you that are like-minded, that want to build something, I think now is the time to take a hold of that and go for it.
Yes, that creative space is so key. And I think sometimes we're afraid to tap into our creative space. And that's why I really think this happened for a reason, right? Because for most of us, in order for us to survive, we had to tap into it. And I see people creating their masks. I see people creating shirts. I see people writing books. If we were back in our normal hustle, we were like, oh, I'll write that book next month. We'll put it off. This is allowing us to tap into what we probably was afraid to birth. I know for myself, I had a few books that I had put together, and they just started coming through the pandemic. So I have 2 adult coloring books. One is a heartbreak one, and one is a mindfulness. Literally, I was able to make sure that I fine tune it, whereas before I probably wouldn't have had that time because I'm just rushing back and forth. So they are up on Amazon, but the thing is, our busyness sometimes hinders and suppress our creativity. So you're right. Allow what we love to be the thing that actually supplies meet our financial needs.
Yes. Now, we got to talk about children in this pandemic, right? And how do you tell kids not to play with their friends? Like, it's important for them to socialize. And I know you have a young daughter. So how are you dealing with telling her what's happening in this pandemic and still trying to, I guess, find some normalcy?
Wow. But you know what I love about our children nowadays? They are well informed. And it isn't like it all came from me, right? But one thing that I do with my daughter Trinity is we sit down and have a real conversation with her and let her know what it's all about, right? And I remember her and I walking. Our fun thing was walking to the gas station to get snacks because it's like a gas station around the corner, and that was the only thing that we really could do, mask up. But when we walked to the gas station, she would see all her friends, and then she would look like she was running over there, and I'm like pulling her arm, like, yo, we can't do that now. And even the other people's, my parents were doing the same thing. I said, all we can do is wave. It's not like we don't love them. We just got to show them a different way that we love them. Do a virtual hug, a reach, but we can't actually hug them, and explain why. Because I think as long as we take the time to communicate and educate our children, they will understand. I think the more we try to hide things, the more they're going to think that there's a different type of problem that exists, because it is a problem. It is a pandemic, and we're trying to survive the pandemic. And when it first started, my daughter was like, okay, no school, let's go to Sky Zone. I'm like, we can't go to Sky Zone.
She's like, playtime.
Silly me, I was like, yeah, let's go to, I'm like, we can't go to Sky Zone, it's closed. And then she said, well, let's go to Five Below. I'm like, it's closed. And when it first happened, I think she thought I was just telling her everything was closed because I didn't feel like doing it, right? So what I did was I said, come on, I'm going to put you in a car and I'm going to show you that Five Below is closed. Because I said, I don't want you turning 20 acting like I deprived you of a little. So I took it right to the door, and I love the fact that they had everything barricaded so you couldn't get in. And she's like, wow, this is really serious. And I was like, it really is. I said, we have to wear our glove. This was really before we had to do all that, but we knew we had to stay apart from everybody. So just explaining it to her, but it gets lonely now. Whereas before I could call other people's children and say, hey, won't they come over and play with Trinity, right? Now Trinity wants me to be her full-time playmate and jump on that trampoline. And I'm too old to be jumping on that trampoline. I get busy.
But it's a great workout.
It is. I can make it through it. So I noticed that my son, because my kids, I have, Trinity is the youngest. She's 11. And then I have a 24-year-old and a 21-year-old. So
what?
I see, yes, I got some grown-ups.
You got some good genes.
Yeah, thank you. So I seen them out on the trampoline jumping with her and everything like that. I was like, wow, this is what it's all about. And it's really allowing us to just communicate differently and bringing us back closer, because the everyday hustle kind of takes us away from what's important. Even though if somebody was to say that to us, we'd be like, no, we'd be like, no, I'm vested in my family and all that stuff. But it's a different type of being vested. You know what I mean? So taking time to communicate is key. And also what I do with Trinity is, like, I'll make breakfast with her. Okay. Right? She made pancakes the other morning. I was scared, girl. I was scared because when she put it on my plate, I'm like, oh, I gotta eat this. But when I ate it, it was really good. So doing like some home economic stuff, like just making it fun so they won't feel like they're in prison in a sense, because again, they don't really want to be with us all day. They want to be with people that they have fun with. So
that's true.
Gotta make the best out of it. It ain't like we like, oh, we gotta be with the kids all day. The kids like, we gotta be with y'all all day. So it's like mixed feelings coming from each side. So just making the best out of it.
But I also love it because now it's like the parents are kind of reconnecting with the children or the grandchildren, aunties, nieces, nephews. Now that you're back in the house, it's like getting back to that culture, you know, waking up, cooking breakfast together, eating dinner together, having
Yes.
conversations, even the
Yes.
hard ones, you know,
Yes.
and then instilling stuff in the home before they go out, right?
Yes.
Because now the home is raising them. It seems like it's getting back to the basics as
Yes.
opposed to like the media raising them, music raising
Yes.
them, the school system
Yes.
raising them.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because now a lot of the kids, they got to do their studies at home. So the parents kind of have to be hands-on.
Yes. And it's teaching, and as a parent, it's teaching us some new things, right? I know my technology skills are average. So I had to turn it up a lot, right? Because we would do the assignments and we just wasn't posting it right. And so the teachers had to say, hey, are y'all doing the work? We're like, yeah, we're doing the work. So I had to learn how to properly do things, and it was very frustrating, right? But I also was able to connect with my daughter differently as it relates to her schoolwork and really understand her learning style versus saying, all right, we're going to do math this way, that way. And then when the teachers would communicate some things back to me, I was able to see it firsthand and really see like how my daughter needed additional help here or the areas that was really her strength. So I appreciate the experience. It ain't like I asked for it or signed up for it, but I appreciate it, right? Because it was just like this. It was like no preparation for it, but I guess it was necessary, right? Because if it was a preparation for it, I wonder how much I really would have prepared anyway. So it's a big adjustment, and I'm nervous for the summertime because, from my understanding, the camps are going to be closed.
It's a lot. And I think that some parents may have reached the threshold with their children. So
Yes.
can you just kind of take a moment and give maybe some advice to parents that have reached their limit or that maybe feel like they're at their wit's end with parenting? And maybe there's some single moms that, you know, this is a ongoing thing now that they have to kind of deal with that. So just maybe some sort of advice is a coping mechanism.
You know what I would say, no matter how busy we are, right? We got to figure out what is that 5 minutes that I can actually get away by myself. And that means even in the bathroom, right? That means going into the bathroom. It's a certain space that nobody will follow you. Nobody. And I think,
or maybe they will. You just got to be like, hello, I'm in the bathroom.
Yes, no, you got to lock that door. But it's like finding that quiet space for like 5 to 10 minutes, right? And that may seem like an hour for some, and allowing yourself to reset. And I know when my kids were younger, I couldn't always find that quiet time while they were up. So I think the expectation of trying to find that in the peak of my day was real unrealistic. But when I made sure there was a proper get up time and a go to bed time, and then I knew that space afterwards would be my time, as selfish as that may be, I may just took that time just to look at the wall and do nothing and just sit in my own thoughts. Or I may took that time to wash my hair or whatever it is, paint my nails, whether it looks great or not, but just something for me, because I think what's happening is with all this busyness as parents, many feel like they're losing themselves, especially when they got kids from various age. I ain't talking about teens. I'm talking about 2, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and they all want a piece of you at the same time. Try not to do difficult tasks during that peak time. And if for some reason you are responsible for working and educating your children at the same time, we just got to figure out what flow we can get in place so that your needs can be met as well as the kids' needs can be met. But what I'm finding is everyone in the household has to play a role. Everyone in that household, like my husband and I, we play a role. Like Monday and Tuesday, I'm responsible for schoolwork, right? Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, I guess my husband got the extra day. He's responsible for the schoolwork, right? So we try to work as a team, but unfortunately, if you don't have someone that you can bounce that off with, this is the perfect time to just figure out how we can do some time management, right? How can we really manage our day, manage our day by the minute, right? Versus the hour. When you manage your day by the minute, it just seems like you have more to do and you're real conscious of what's going on throughout that day.
So parents, if you feel like you're about to lose your wit's end, go to the bathroom, take a minute, take some deep breaths, do what you need to do before it gets crazy in the household. This has been Mental Health Mondays. I want to thank you so much for your expertise. for really breaking it down, for sharing a part of your life with us.
Yeah.
And it's something that we really need. It's something that we really need at this time, especially communication, understanding, and having an open and honest conversation about it. I really thank you.
Yes, no, I thank you for providing this platform, because I think what people need is open and honesty and authenticity, right? Or being authentic, right? Because they need to feel that they can connect with the person that they're hearing from. So I appreciate this platform.
If somebody wanted to utilize your services, how can they connect with you?
They can find me, they can contact me at 215-519-2531, or they can just find me by looking at my website, drtinascottlpc.com.
All right. Thank you.